Hello and welcome to the Lou Review. This is your host, Rosa Hart, and today I am speaking with Chef David Danielson. He is somewhat of a legend, but as he is liking to tell me, the legends may be incomplete because he has a lot of new things he wants to share. So thank you for being with me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and, we are always excited to get the word out and just, talk about what's going on.
Right. So what is going on? What is your new restaurant venture?
So, it's been a very interesting journey. I arrived here in Louisville probably 14 years ago. I was brought down to be the executive chef at Churchill Downs. Mm-hmm. And Churchill was really looking to take their program in a different direction. And so I had an amazing run there. And, when I moved to Louisville, I thought I'd be here for 3 or 4 years.
Oh.
And then we thought we'd move on. And we just really fell in love with the city. And it was an amazing place. And vibrant dining scene. Mm-hmm. And...
You mean that surprised you? You weren't expecting that in Louisville, Kentucky?
I spent the last 20 years in New York and Chicago, right?
Yeah.
I lived in Manhattan, I lived downtown Chicago, and we came here. And, I came to a point in my life where I made a bucket list of a couple of things I'd never done. Somehow my career had taken me into doing special events. Mm-hmm. And I thought the two biggest events I'd never done were the Masters and the Kentucky Derby.
Okay.
And
you found the Derby.
I knew some people in Chicago and said, man, this is right up your alley. And so I came down here and took over as executive chef at Churchill. Mm-hmm. And just really it changed my life. And
wow.
I fell in love with Louisville. I fell in love with cooking again. And it was an amazing experience. And, so today we're talking about kind of next generation. So I just bought what is, I feel like an iconic restaurant here in Louisville, mm-hmm. which had been around for many years, was Anoosh Bistro.
Yeah, we actually had Anoosh on this podcast a little over a year ago or so. So this is going to be really interesting to hear your vision and how you're going to be transitioning.
Well, I feel like, there are a handful of restaurants in the city. Louisville has a great dining scene, and it's from going to get great fried chicken to go great this that, but there was a handful of iconic chefs, mm-hmm. iconic restaurants. Anoosh Bistro, mm-hmm. Dean Corbett, mm-hmm. Grisanti's. There was all these kind of places that were always legendary, mm-hmm. and when I moved here, I became very good friends with them. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of community work. We did a lot of fundraising. Mm-hmm. So Dean and Anoosh became good friends of mine. Mm-hmm. And, I never thought that we were going down this road. But a few months ago, Anoosh called me. Mm-hmm. And he was getting ready to gear up for Derby and PGA. Mm-hmm. Had a lot of catering going on, was looking for some help, looking for some advice. And so him and I just kind of started talking, and, I think he was ready to retire. He was ready, this guy had been an iconic chef in this city for many, 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 decades, mm-hmm. and was ready to kind of take it easy. Mm-hmm. But I think it was very important to him that his restaurant went to a chef. Yeah. And he didn't want a chain, he didn't want a corporate, he didn't want it to turn into, it's an amazing location.
It is a really good
location. And I feel like the neighborhood is underserved mm-hmm. with great restaurants. Yeah. And he didn't want, restaurant to not be named to come in there. And so he wanted to go to a chef. And so we started talking. I wasn't really in the neighborhood to buy a restaurant, but one thing led to another, and 3 weeks later I had the keys in my hand.
Oh my goodness, that's a really quick turnaround.
And so, it was very interesting because my dilemma was like, how do you take this iconic restaurant and move it forward? And even Anoosh told me, I can't wait to see what you do with this. I can't wait to see where it's going. And
he didn't expect you to continue doing what he was doing. He knows you're going to have your own idea.
Yeah, I think that yes and no, right? I mean,
of course you'll have the emphasis on local fresh produce, right?
Yeah, I mean, that look, I think when you're cooking at that level, you're trying to really connect with guests, but it's also he knew what I did at Churchill, where we felt a responsibility to promote local, to find great stories, to provide great purveyors, whether it was lettuces or microgreens or lamb or beef or whatever. And cooking is a story, right? And we all tell that, and is experiential. So we all want to tell our story. And Anoosh told his and built a great reputation. And I think, like a lot of us, are very interested to see, what the next thing is. And, for me, the most difficult part was, God, you take this iconic restaurant, I was like, please don't change. Please don't take this off the menu. Please don't do this.
Right.
We do this. And, I looked at all that, and I thought that, people didn't really love dishes, right? People loved the experience. And so what everyone loved about Anoosh was that he was there every night. He was cooking. He was talking around. He was talking to people. He was telling everybody. And that, to me, was the greatest part of taking this restaurant over. After running large-scale, huge operations.
Where you're so distant from the customer?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I was totally distant. I ran, I cooked, I taught my chefs. But at Churchill, we were serving thousands and thousands and thousands of people a day.
Right.
I'm not at the stove cooking, right? And so the great part about this was that I kind of returned to my roots, where I came from.
Where did you come from?
Well, I came from Chicago. So I grew up in Chicago, and I came up very classic. I'm an old guy. So late 80s, I came up classically trained. French cuisine was the cuisine at the time.
Okay.
So I went to a very small French cooking school outside Chicago.
Okay.
I did an internship at the Ritz-Carlton, 6 months at the Ritz-Carlton Chicago, which was a Four Seasons hotel. Then I went to work for a guy who had just burst onto the scene named Charlie Trotter.
Okay.
So I cooked for Charlie, which was, at that time a very new and interesting and amazing restaurant. And Charlie was kind of a wild guy, right? And
as artists often are.
One night I dropped a plate.
Uh-oh.
And I couldn't believe it, but we were a teeny small restaurant. We sat 66 people. We did either a 9 or 13 course dinner. We had 17 cooks. And we were at a small townhouse in Chicago, and it was wild. And so then Charlie decided to create what he called the kitchen table. And he put a four-top in the kitchen. He was the first person to ever create. That's where the kitchen table was created.
Is that right? Okay.
And so back in the late 80s, Charlie Trotter created the kitchen table.
Okay.
And so we had this little four-top jammed in the corner of our kitchen, and it was chaotic. And the dishwashers couldn't keep up, and the plates, I was on the cold side making plates, and they were coming out of the dishwasher, they're hot, so they were putting all the plates in the refrigerator to get cold.
Uh-oh.
And so I had a little bit of oil, a little bit of whatever on my fingers. I grabbed a stack, I came out, and a plate dropped. And at the end of the night, Charlie Trotter brought me to his office and fired me.
Oh, my gosh.
And said, that. And I said, what the?
Yeah.
I don't know what I can say on this podcast, but I said, what the? F. And no, I'm not going down like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, Charlie, he fired me. So
I love how you had such a physical memory of it. You were like touching your fingertips, like you remembered the
Yeah,
feeling on your
man.
fingertips when you dropped that plate.
It was a magical place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up moving to France.
Wow.
And I spent a year cooking in the south of France.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back into the country. I went right back to Charlie Trotter's.
You went back?
Of course. I told Charlie when I left,
gosh.
I'm not going down like that. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna do this. You're gonna hire me back. And so I walked back, and then Charlie hired me back, and I went to work for him again. But that was kind of my indoctrination into really fine dining, and really, I feel like what sets restaurants apart was just the magic of what a restaurant should be, right? Mm-hmm. And, when I never forget when I did my internship at the Ritz-Carlton, mm-hmm. my very first day, the Ritz-Carlton's on top of Water Tower Place in Chicago. Mm-hmm. The lobby was on the 12th floor. So you'd come in, mm-hmm. you'd go down to the basement, you'd get your uniform, they give you your hat, they give you your chef coat, they give you your towels. And you get on the elevator, and we got on the elevator every day, and there was a quote of the day. It said how many people were in the hotel, how many people were checking in, checking out, what the thing was, the weather. There was a quote of the day. Mm-hmm. And the quote of the day was, when people are having a good time, they spend more money. Walt Disney.
Yep.
And that was a long time ago, and I never forgot that, right? And so, to me, as a chef, as a restaurateur, yes, it's as a chef, we like to cook great food. Mm-hmm. But as a restaurateur, it's experiential, right? Mm-hmm. We want to make, we have the ability to be a chapter in somebody's life, right? Everybody wants to come and have a good time. Oh, great, I'm going to have dinner. I want more. Mm-hmm. I want more. I want to change people's lives.
In one visit?
Yes, in every visit.
Yeah.
Because shouldn't we?
It's fine with me.
Because, I'm going to tell you what, I'll tell you a horrible thing.
Oh.
Everybody says, everyone asks me all the time, God, chef, what's your favorite? I've worked all over the world. I've worked in amazing restaurants. Everyone says, what's your favorite restaurant? I said, well, my old favorite restaurant used to be a place called the Harlow Grill. Mm-hmm. And it was a dump. A little teeny diner in Melrose Park outside Chicago, and I would work late and I would come home. And I'll never forget the first time I went in there. It was a little countertop, and there was a couple guys back there cooking fast order, and I sat in there. And I said, this is back in the day, and I hate to say it, I was a smoker. And I said, excuse me, can I get an ashtray? And the guy turned around and looked at me and said, you're sitting in it. Right? And I looked down, and there was this linoleum floor that had burn holes all over it.
Oh, my God.
I thought, what a shithole. And you know what? But what a great place to be, right? And so that is, my favorite restaurant, the Harlow Grill.
You felt very at home.
Where's the ashtray? You're sitting there. All right.
Okay.
Where else would chefs want to be at 1:30 in the morning after they've gotten off work, had a couple beers, had a couple Jaegers, you stop at home for a cheeseburger, and this is what you encounter, and you go like, yeah, that inspires me, right? Because I've eaten in the greatest restaurants, I've eaten in the worst. I was in Beijing one night, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I was catering the Olympics in Beijing in 2008. And I had a bunch of chefs with me who walked down the street. We looked, we were in Hutong. We looked on this alley, and there's a guy, I got a picture of it on my phone. And he's sitting in a pair of shorts with a hibachi grill, all this seasoning, he's cooking chicken wings.
Oh, my.
And everyone said, Chef, you're not even seriously thinking about eating that. I said, look at this guy. He had a fan, right? And he was seasoning everything, and he was fanning the fire. And this guy, he was like 3-star Michelin chef, man.
Whoa.
These were the most amazing things. And I said, like, are you kidding me? This is like, how am I not eating this, right?
Right.
And everyone said,
up this
oh my God,
experience?
you're going to die. I said, yeah, well, we'll die, right? And so they were the greatest things ever. And then as we're leaving, a bunch more chefs came. And they were like, what the hell? You know, what are you guys doing? And here was this guy. And, you know, it was a magic moment, right? And I keep that because cooking is a passionate thing, right? You, for some whatever crazy reason, feel the need to give the best of yourself to take care of others, right? Cooking, you know, is about nurturing. Is about nurturing others, right? And you look at the greatest chefs, not only in this country, but the greatest chefs in the world, and they all had a mother, a grandmother, somebody that influenced them, that made, no matter what else was happening in your life. Look, the world is a crazy place, right? But no matter where you live, no matter what you have, there's a moment where you have the ability to sit with someone, and whether it's your fingers, whether it's a fork, whether it's an ivory spoon, whatever the hell it is, you have a minute to connect with something that is magic. And so that is what intrigued me about cooking, right? And so when this iconic restaurant Anoosh was available, I didn't really want to buy a restaurant.
Right.
Not
for its own sake. Not
No,
for the sake of
no, I don't want to do that. I'm older guy, I'm risk adverse, I'm thinking, God, this is a lot of work, this and that. I sat with Anoosh and we talked, and the restaurant was beautiful. It was so well maintained, and the most important thing was the staff. And 4 walls are 4 walls, and ovens and ovens, and grills and grills, and fires are fire. But the culture of the people who work in restaurants are what make restaurants. And that guy, Anoosh, did that, right?
He nurtured that culture.
He nurtured that culture. He created that. And so I sat with the staff, and I looked at the staff, and I said, I want to come in here. And I bought the restaurant because of the staff. Yes, it was an amazing restaurant, amazing building, amazing place, great location, all that. But, you know, I bought it because of the people.
What about the people impressed you so much?
Because they were professionals. They were excited about taking care of others.
Yeah.
And they were hungry, and they were sponges, and they responded, and they cared.
Yeah.
And so
you can't pay people enough to make them care that much.
No, you can't. And, you know, I'll tell you a crazy thing is, you know, I'm a little nuts, right? I'm always trying new dishes. I'm doing this, I'm experimenting. And so I'm a little wild. So I created a couple dishes the other day, I did this, that. And so I always have the staff taste them, right? Because they're my front line.
Yeah.
The front of the house is my front line. They get with the servers. They're dealing with the customers. They hear it. They know what's going on. So I said, hey guys, this. Here's a new dish I created. And they tasted it and said, what the, you know, whatever. And so the next day I came into work. I'm standing on a line. I'm getting ready. And this gentleman comes in. He says, oh, chef, you know, I went home last night. I started telling my wife, well, then this guy took this and did this, the Spinellas, and then he made a deco. And his wife said, would you please tell me something in language that I could understand, right?
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything greater that when our staff goes home at the end of the day, of a trodden, beat down, horrific, what people believe their industry is.
Yeah.
That why would you be a server? Why would you be a cook? Why would you be this? What do you get out of that? These are low level, blah, blah, blah. They don't realize the level of professionalism. And when one of my team members goes home and tells their spouse at 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to keep them up, telling them how excited they are,
About something they just tasted.
then then it works, right?
Right. Yeah.
Then it means something, and then we're about sharing this with our guests, right? And any moment, at any time, my very, very first job out of culinary school, I was finishing culinary school, I was the personal chef to the British Consulate General in Chicago.
Oh.
And so we had members of parliament, we had everyone flying in from all over the world, and I would create these amazing dinners. But the two kids would come down, and I would cook them grilled cheese sandwiches, and I would cut them in the shape of a house. And I would do this and that. And you realize the magic is when you can stop a 5-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 50-year-old, a person who's a world leader to this, and stop them for 1 minute and look at what they're eating and say, what is this, right?
And help them enjoy that moment.
That's what drove me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my inspiration of why I cook and how I like to cook. Yeah. And then I took over this iconic restaurant, and I wanted... The restaurant had been kind of gotten known to be a special occasion restaurant, very classical, very fine dining, and providing amazing food and amazing service. Yeah. At somewhat of an amazing price.
Yeah.
And I thought, the world is changing, and great food doesn't have to cost a ton of money.
Right.
And so how do we cook? How do we resonate? How do we have fun and provide that amazing experience for people that everybody can afford to come do it?
Yeah.
Right? And so, Äta means eat in Swedish. And when I bought this restaurant, I had no idea what the hell I was doing with it. And everyone said, what do you name it? This and that. I had all these names. They were French or this. I thought I was going to keep it fine dining. And I said,
With all your French training and
I said, man, I want to come here and cook for a couple weeks. And I just got in there and I cooked. I was not happy. And I was making amazing food and beautiful food. But I didn't feel like I was connecting with anybody. And so I felt like, here's me, this guy who has been cooking for many, many years, worked in some of the greatest restaurants, the greatest properties, the greatest places in the world. And I felt like my feet were stuck in cement.
That's not a good feeling.
And what am I going to do, right? And what are we going to call this? What are we going to do? And I thought back to my youngest childhood food memories. And it was going to my grandmother's house. And I used to ride my bike over there, and she'd make me Swedish pancakes. And she baked bread every day. And
so was your family Swedish?
Yes.
Okay.
Three of my grandparents came from Sweden, one from Denmark.
Okay.
And my grandma Alice lived very close to me, and I'd ride my bike over there, and she'd make me platta Swedish pancakes and lingonberries. She baked bread every day, and she was this tiny little woman who was a powerhouse. And the craziest thing is, I have a lot of her recipes, right? And so the other night I had some people in the restaurant, and I was sitting in the restaurant, and my bookkeeper came up, and she said, "Chef, you have a letter." And I said, "What?" And there's a letter, and I looked at it. It's addressed to me, handwritten, beautiful. And I look at, who the hell sent me this? And it's my mother.
Oh.
Like, why did she send this to my restaurant?
And not to your house.
So I open it up, and it's a 3x5 card, and it has the recipe for her and my mother's Swedish meatballs on it.
Oh.
And so she had the recipe completely written on one side, and I flipped it over to the back side, and it said, Grandma used egg yolks instead of this, blah, 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 and some, And so the other night I was in the restaurant, and I went out and bought the ingredients and did what I'm doing. And the crazy thing is, I'm an older guy, but I've never cooked this recipe that I've eaten since I was a baby.
Because she made it
Because
for
my
you.
grandma made it, or my mom made it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never cooked it. And so the other night I bought all the ingredients, I made it, and I did it, and I had some VIP guests come in the restaurant and said, hey, want something special? And I'm like, God, I got something for you. And when I went to the back, I opened the oven, like, the smell, I thought I was in my grandma's kitchen.
Oh.
It took me back to like, oh my God. And that's insane, right? And so
Those smells can be so powerful.
But it's the power of what we do, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, food is great, but it's the people, it's this. And that's why I created Atta. This restaurant was about experience. I want people to come in. I want them to dine. We're changing the menu. We're having fun, creating cocktails. This is my house. Yeah. This is my house, right?
With your family recipes.
I named a house Eat. And so I learned a long time ago, my first restaurant, I had a night that some of my regular customers came in and their daughter got engaged. And it was the greatest night of these folks' life. And then all of a sudden an entity came to me and told me we had another family here who I knew very well, and they wanted to eat in the private dining room, and they just walked in. And I said, okay. And they normally always called me and this and that. And they had realized they'd just come from a funeral. And so that night, I ran back and forth between these two tables. And there was one table celebrating the greatest day of their life. And there was one table mourning the worst day of their life, right? Yeah. And you realize the power and the importance of dining and eating out and what a restaurant can be. And, stupidly enough, I had a group of people 3 or 4 nights ago in the restaurant. It was a 10 top, 12 top. Having a fabulous time, and I walked out, and usually, come on. 2 top, 4 top, 6 top, everybody's out having dinner. When you see 12 people, there's something going on.
Yeah, it's a party.
So I walked out and I said, what are we celebrating tonight, folks? And they said, unfortunately. And I was like, oh no. Shit, right? Like, yeah. I tied up with my foot. But I looked at him and I said, you know what? This is what we're in the business of. I said, this is one of the greatest things as a restaurateur. And one of the most important things is we connect with people on the best days of their lives, on the worst days of their lives. Right. And that's the important of restaurants. That's the important of what we do. And so when I cook, my staff, when we invite guests into our house, we invite guests into our house, and we want to be... I don't want to be the restaurant that puts asses in seats. I want to be the restaurant that is a chapter in your life.
Yeah, so that hospitality can provide comfort.
And so that's what we do.
Not just to celebrate the most splendid occasions, but also
you celebrate
make you
life.
Feel at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's a beautiful vision. So what is your menu going to be like? Is it going to be a lot of your family recipes?
No.
Are
So
you going to have the Swedish pancakes on the menu?
no,
No.
I don't know. I don't know.
Make the cut?
Well, the meatballs, I'm gonna probably do a
Swedish
little
meatballs?
I'll try and send some specials. You know, here's the crazy thing, right? There's a very famous a dish called Abelskiver, right? Which is just kind of like round donut. And we used to make them, and if you were really fancy, you put a little lingonberries in the middle, and you flipped it over, and then you hit them with powdered sugar. We ate it for breakfast. And so I was on the phone. My mom is 94 years old. And so I'm on the phone with her the other day. I said, Mom, I'm going to try this new Abelskiver. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I got this amazing country ham from Benson here in Kentucky that made this like prosciutto ham. It's spectacular. So I'm thinking about doing is putting a little cheese in the Abelskiver, flipping it over, and then slicing a little ham over this, making an appetizer. She said, that's not an Abelskiver. What are you, crazy? You know. So I am taking some risks with that, and I'm taking some fun things. But what we've really done is we went from a very classical, traditional menu to we extended the bar menu out. I added a bunch of small plates, shareables, beautiful like olive oil poached artichoke flour that we poached for 18 hours in olive oil. We take it out, we open it up,
18
we grill
hours?
it, and it's Spanish olive oil. We do it with roasted tomato, a little lemon zest, a little basil. I've got these beautiful jumbo head-on prawns that we saute, and you get the flavor off the shell. We peel it off the table, but it's got the head on the tail on. We saute it with some garlic, some lemon, a little white wine. Finish it with a little Calabrian chili and the Beurre Blanc. You know, so we're just creating a bunch of different menus. I don't want it to be so formal, but I want people to be able to come sit at the bar, sit at the restaurant, have some small plates, have a glass of wine, have a cocktail, or sit down to dinner.
But not feel like they have to commit to an
not,
entree.
Right,
They're coming
exactly.
in.
Because
Yeah.
I like, you know, I see these groups of people come in and say, like, let's order a bunch of these plates, let's order some bottles of wine, and sit and do that. And, like, I feel the magic of a restaurant, and any restaurant. You know, it goes back to the Cheers days, right? Everybody, you know, I'll tell you the craziest thing. I buy my fish, a lot of my fish, out of South Florida.
Okay.
And so the gentleman who I buy my fish from is a gentleman named Pete Jarvis. And I've known for many, many years. He used to come up and collaborate with me on the Derby. And about 3 or 4 years ago, someone sent me a text, and it was a link to an article written in the Boston Globe. And it said, my dad is the original Sam Malone. And it talked about this guy who I'd known for many, many years. Was a baseball player, got injured, and went and became the bar manager at a place called the Bull and Finch in Boston. A bunch of TV executives started hanging out there drinking and thought this guy was hilarious, and actually wrote the TV show Cheers, and he was Sam Malone.
Oh.
So that's who we get our fish from.
Wow. That's
So I
incredible.
called him 3 times today. This guy pain in my ass. But, you know, it's crazy people, right? And he's like, calls me, oh my God, you can't believe this head-on prawn I got. Oh my God, you can't believe this, right? And she's like,
He'll call you about an individual prawn.
When
That's awesome.
docks are full, he says in Texas, Jesus. But like, when you surround yourself with amazing people,
Right.
you want to do amazing things.
Exactly.
And so, what our whole journey, what our joy is bringing people in and having a good time, having a great meal, man. Whether you want to sit down and you come in and tell me I want you to cook me 7-course dinner, I will go off menu and I will do it for you. I will, you know, love the people who come and sit at the bar and order wraps and try some stuff. Or people who are doing this. To me, It's about creating a space. It's about creating an experience. We're nurturing people, we're providing great food, and there's nothing more important to me than being with friends and family and breaking bread and connecting.
Yeah, that's
right?
what it's all about.
Enough is as good as a feast.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You mean it doesn't have to be a 13-course meal every day? That's great.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
But I love the versatility of that. I love your heart behind all this.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to come check out Etta and try out the new things on your menu. So are there plenty of things for vegetarians still?
Yeah.
I know that was a huge thing for Anoosh.
Nah, man,
the vegetable.
Yeah, dude, I'm rolling, man. You know, and that's the thing, right? I love vegetable cookery. So I have a daughter who's a vegetarian. So, you know, like, all right. If my daughter,
they have to eat too.
Yeah, but, you know, the days of, like, I look back and I think about how embarrassed I was. Because years and years ago, whatever you did, you know, the vegetarian's coming in. Oh, here's a plate, a little cauliflower, a little broccoli, some carrot, you know, the steamed bullshit veggie plate. And then we said, like, oh, you don't want to eat what we're serving? Here, we're going to give you the steamed veggie plate. And probably, you know, took this crap, wrapped plastic over it, threw it in a microwave. And what? Yeah, that was shit. That was the best restaurants. That was, but I work with people who love vegetable cookery. And you know what? To deal with that and understand the meats are boring, right? Chicken, fish, this, that. Okay, yeah, I can do this. But, like, what can you do with a carrot, right? What can you... I was looking at a bunch of recipes today. And I'm thinking about, you know, using different sherries and vinegars and roasting carrots and like years ago I was in Chicago at the National Restaurant Show and some people invited me out to dinner and they brought me to a very, very well-known chef's restaurant. I can't believe they have the reservation. And everybody ordered a dish. And there were like 7 or 8 of us, and we said, okay, here we're doing, everyone order a dish, we're all sharing. And so this guy said, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this. And I said, like, I'm going to have the carrots. And they all like, said, what?
Was that a dish, or were you just requesting carrots?
No, it was a dish.
Okay.
And they said, like, your dish is the carrot side? And I said, man, I know this guy. If that's on the dish, if that's on the menu, there's a reason. So then this friggin' incredible meal comes out. Fish and beef and pork, everything. At the end of the night, we all walked out of there, and these are guys who are longtime restaurant veterans. And everyone looked at them and said, damn it, chef. The carrot dish was the best thing we ate all night. And because it's unexpected, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, man, that was insane, right? And so I want every diner in my I don't care. Hey, I can't eat this. I can't eat this. I had a group of people walking last night asked me to cook them a 7-course meal Saturday night. And I said, okay, in the middle of dinner, I just made up a menu and I prepared this special meal. I have a table in my restaurant. So there used to be a table called 500 and 501. They're the 2 most popular tables in our restaurant. They're next to the bar.
Okay.
I got rid of them. And I put a high boys 6-top in next to one to build the bar business.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And everyone said, what? Oh, my God, these are the 2 most popular tables. I said, no, this is not table 1. This is my table. And anyone who eats here, I'll cook for.
Okay.
Because, and so I had a group of people come in the other night and say, would you cook for us? And I made them a 7-course dinner. And
this was at Etta?
Yeah, of course.
Well, you said your restaurant. I just want to make sure it's
Etta. So
current.
No, this was Saturday night.
Okay.
And I cooked them an off-menu, 7-course plated, very high-end meal because we could, man. Because this is what we're here for. And like, I don't say we do that for everybody, but I created a special table that I showcase stuff. Every day I try something new. Every day we push. Every day we're trying something. Every day we're looking at something. We're committed to 1% a day better, right?
That's how you get better.
And
1% at a time.
that's how great restaurants survive. That's how great restaurants thrive, and we need to push ourselves to keep cooking every day. Like I ran big places,
Yeah.
and I got off the stove.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can imagine Churchill, I was cooking for 100,000 people. I wasn't doing that by myself.
Yeah. Did you feel more like you were running a factory than...
No, I felt like I was running a very successful, unbelievable business. That was a place that when I stood at Derby and looked down and watched what I'd just done, the hair stood up on the back of my neck when 160,000 people screamed. It was magical, right? But it wasn't personal.
You missed the intimacy?
And so now I'm back where I try and touch every table every night. I try and touch every guest. I look at everyone's food and I think, like, what do these people need?
Wow.
And so we're having fun, man. We're having fun.
Well, now I know what table I want to sit at
Yes,
when I
you
come.
guys sit table one, baby.
That's
Table
right.
one. You call me,
So
it's
I need
yours.
a party of 6. Is
No,
that
you call me, I got you. But that's what we're trying to do, is make magic, right? And
I like that.
food connects. Food has a healing power, right? And so much we get bashed for just what a shit industry this is, and how bad we are to people, and how hard it is, and how hours and this and that. I couldn't think of doing anything other than this.
Because it's really
And
rewarding,
I've worked in the
too,
worst
isn't it?
places with the nastiest people before everyone was politically correct. I grew up, with dudes throwing plates and doing this and crazy, but there's something special about what we do, right? And when we see people's faces and we create great experiences, and when people could just come in after a day and put it all away, man, put that shit aside and be with who you're with, whether it's you sitting at the bar or your significant other or a group of friends, and just
Enjoy the humanity of the
yeah,
moment.
man.
Yeah.
There's very few places that we get to do that anymore.
And you're right that it's important to create space for that.
There's very few places you can do that anymore. Yeah. And certainly very few that you can do that with others.
Yeah.
And so the significance of that is important. And for me, it's still a pirate ship, man. Restaurants.
It's still a pirate ship.
Restaurants are crazy, wild beasts, and I love that shit too, right? Because I am old school, and I love the insanity of everybody I know is watching The Bear.
Yes,
right?
I was so trying not to make a reference to that while you were talking.
So, okay, I'll tell you what.
Man.
I grew up in Chicago.
Yes.
So,
yes,
Mr. Beef,
Yes.
where does The Bear? That's my favorite beef stand.
Yeah.
I used to roll into there at 10:30 every morning, hungover, probably twice a week. Oh, man. I know that was right by my house.
But this is not the diner you were talking about.
No, but the Mr. Beef, which is The Bear.
Yes.
That's my favorite beef stand.
Yeah. I
So
have
I
to
know
go
all
try
those
it for
dudes.
real.
Oh, no, man. I used to roll in there. Oof, rough mornings. That was my hangover cure. It was a combo, dipped, extra jardiniere. That set me straight. That and a Coke.
So did they have really sloppy spaghetti like on the show?
No, there's none.
No spaghetti. Okay.
It's Italian beef, man. You have beef or a combo.
All right.
I got a combo, which was sausage, beef, dipped, hot jardiniere, fries, Coke. I'm out the door. That's all they make their money on. So I grew up with this place. Yeah. So the amazing thing about it is, the first, and I'm going to give you my TV review. The first two seasons were amazing. The third one, I know everyone's poo-pooing on.
Oh,
But the first episode, he's cooking at Danielle, he's cooking at Noma, he's cooking at the greatest 3-star Michelins around the world. They're telling him he's a piece of crap. This. I look at that, and it brings me back, because like that's how I grew up. I trained in France. I spent a year working there. I worked with all these people. I worked in this.
So was that like your experience?
That was the greatest shit ever. I loved that we were swashbucklers, man. I loved that it was dysfunctional. I loved it was insane. I loved that it was tough, brutal, hellacious. When I worked for Charlie Trotter, the waiters wore double-sided tape on the bottom of their shoes, and they would step on lint balls that peel off people's napkins for crumbs and come back in the kitchen. If you didn't show up 2.5 hours before your shift, you were friggin' fired, man.
Whoa.
It was insanity. It was intense. It was crazy. We scrubbed at the end of the night of work a 14-hour day. We would come out in the back and we would go to the businesses around us and take the garbage out of their dumpsters and scrub their dumpsters with soap and waters and put their garbage back in to make sure no rats would get near our building.
Wow.
At 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
I never thought of
like
that.
this is the insanity of how some of these people live, right?
Yeah.
But it was it was my Disney. It was my Disney.
Well, I
It was
just
a
watched the
magical
episode
place.
where the brother or the cousin goes to the Michelin star restaurant.
11 Madison Park.
Yeah, to learn.
Right.
And he's like polishing forks and he thinks he's being punished. And it turns out he's learning the passion for the service. And I loved the story that the man told where he was like a recovering alcoholic and he said he wanted to be there to serve others because that's where he found the most joy. And that's exactly what you were saying as well as you were describing your vision.
But I mean, there's famous stories, Danny Meyer who started 11 Madison Park before Wugadara and Daniel Hume took it over. They took this crappy restaurant, made it the greatest restaurant in the world, But it was about culture, right? Danny Meyer, who built that, who owns, his restaurant group. There's stories about someone who came in and said, we're here for our anniversary dinner. Just before we left, someone sent us some, beluga caviar. And we realized we left it on our counter.
Oh, no.
And they came to dinner to celebrate their 25th, 50th, whatever the hell, wedding anniversary. And said to the sommelier, do you think that'll be okay? Let me ask the chef. And the maitre d' comes over and says, it really should be refrigerated. You're going to be here for a while. Give me your keys. Well, if someone run up and put it in the refrigerator. And the people get home, and the caviar is in the refrigerator with a bottle of champagne and a handwritten note from the staff saying, thank you for spending our time with us, blah, blah, blah. Now, do you ever think these people are going anywhere else?
No.
Ever?
Oh, my gosh.
That restaurant.
Wow.
But it's like, we're a bunch of friggin' vagabonds, and we have the ability to touch others. And so that's what I find amazing about the restaurant business. So my restaurant is about connecting. And I have a menu that's based on seasonality. When the food comes in, when everything is great, whether it's strawberries, beets, blood oranges, this, that, we change the menu. We change it regularly. If I see an ingredient I like, I take it off. But it's built on providing amazing dining experiences with amazing service and creating a new chapter in people's lives. And
well, I'm ready.
I push my staff every day. And, we're excited about cooking great food and having a good time.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Chef David Danielson.
Thank you.
And I was so excited to get to know you better and then also get this preview that basically has me salivating because now I have to come. Now, are you open 7 days a week? Or
We're open Tuesday through Saturday currently from 4:30 till 10.
Okay.
Hopefully in the future we'll be expanding into lunch.
Mm-hmm.
We also specialize in catering.
Okay.
I do catering.
Yeah, I know you cater lots of events, so the restaurant will be doing it.
And I cater for small, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Smaller is better. Yes,
Yeah.
I can run the Super Bowl. I can run this, but
Mm-hmm.
I was just out in Vegas a month ago cooking for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
I cooked for the owners of Omega for the Olympics. Oprah used to be one of my biggest clients, when I was in Chicago. So we do everything, right?
Mm-hmm. But you like to create these intimate experiences.
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah.
Call me for a shower.
Fantastic.
Like, I love to, it's about us connecting with our folks and building a brand and building a great thing, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, that's awesome. So check out Ada at the intersection of Brownsboro Road and the Waterson.
Correct.
We're in the old Anoosh Bistro if you've been there, and if you haven't, well, just try something new anyway.
Google us, man. We're right in front of Brownsboro Harbor, and please stop in and come see us. We'd love to have you.
That's right. And if you enjoyed this interview, then you'll want to follow the Lou Review podcast for more interviews with local business owners and nonprofit leaders with what they're doing to make the Louisville area unique and exciting. You can follow me on social media at Rosa Raves, and I'll be sharing all the pictures and videos from my visits there. And I'll see you in the next episode.